Hello. So glad to be here with you. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but open to whatever.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to Chamber Chat. I'm John Terr, President and CEO of the Boulder Chamber, and I'm pleased to have this special conversation on the 5-year anniversary-ish period for our wonderful City Manager Nuria Rivera-Vandermyde. And so we're going to have a little conversation about issues of importance to the business community and our community overall. And so welcome to Chamber Chat, Nuria.
Thank you so much, John. So delighted to be here.
Oh, it's wonderful. We're going to dig deep into some important issues and just have some fun together.
Let's do it.
We're rolling. All right, so let me just say this. So 5 years ago, reflecting back on that period when you came in, it was really the midst of the COVID crisis. And so I just ask up front, how did you find this community, the local government, and what did you see that you needed to work on right away?
Yeah. May 10th, not that I'm counting, was 5 years with the city.
Wow, so it's very close.
Yeah, very close. And I couldn't be more thrilled to have come, to continue to be here. When I first arrived, I will say that we were still in the midst of pandemic. Government operations were still shut down. Everybody was remote. My very first impression was, interestingly, as I drove in, was frankly, I saw a lot of tents, a lot of unsheltered folks in front of the city building.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of traffic, and feet traffic, vehicle traffic, just people. Because everybody was still shut down, right? It wasn't, I don't know that was a surprise, because I'd come from another city where everybody was also shut down. But it was stark as I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm about to lead an organization that I'm not able to meet or see, so it was a fascinating time to come in. As I was looking at and getting my feet wet in the city, a couple of other things struck me. For a city organization as wonderfully small as we are, I was surprised at how siloed we were. Departments really were doing kind of really good work, but individualized work. I was starting to read up on strategic plans, previously called master plans, but looking at those and realizing those were really set up so individually, and curious at that time, how did that all come together, and how does that actually make a budget when you're thinking about that? Departments were really open to collaboration, but I also was facing some leadership churn in the city, which meant that there was some good talent and knowledge base that was going other places. So it was a fascinating time to be. Sales tax had been really declining. I saw that businesses, particularly restaurants, were suffering because people just weren't coming out. So it was a fascinating, interesting time to come in.
Well, let me ask you this. So as you now look back 5 years, in those areas that you were initially thinking, I need to address this, how do you feel we're doing?
I think we're doing much better, right? I wish I could say that I've inherited some years where sales tax had been climbing and going up. That has not been my experience here in the city. It has continued to be difficult, not awful. Other cities are facing more serious financial scenarios. I think you and everybody in community has heard my word of financial constraint. I believe in that because I do. It's not doom, but it is that you have to make some choices, and we're still in that space now. But I see light at sort of in the front of us. I see optimism as I'm moving forward. But it took us a while to move forward to figure out where we were going to go. When I first came in the city had furloughed over 700 employees. So I was faced with building back a staff base. And then seeing what is it time for? Because when you are able to do that, you can certainly go back to business as usual, but you can also start thinking about what do we need right now? And a lot of what we needed was, how do we get past COVID? How do we build back traffic to businesses? How do we support our local businesses and restaurants all over? And so thinking about that. But I also faced a situation where we were competing with every other city. And so just bringing back and hiring back staff made our budget inflate tremendously.
Yeah.
Because we, like everybody else, we were paying a premium because everybody was looking for personnel.
Sure.
And those that compensation market rate has never quite come down again. And so that was something that was fascinating that we had to deal with at that time.
Yeah.
And knowing and talking to other managers in the region and across the nation, everybody was in the same position.
Yeah.
I think for our restaurant and our business community who had struggled so much, they too were looking for workers. They were looking to, how do we bring people back into our businesses, our downtown, and seeing that that pandemic changed completely the landscape of the city. But I think we're doing better. I know that we're continuing to struggle with the commercial vacancy rate, but at least our first floor retail is looking pretty solid. City staff, we have a hybrid policy, and we have about, I would say about half of our folks are in the field, so they're not really office workers.
Sure.
Our office workers are coming back. We have them come back twice, 2 days a week. We're seeing now already that they're coming back 3 days and 4 days. So people are coming downtown and working in the office spaces. I'm hearing some of that from some of the local businesses. But I also think that the landscape has changed, and you're seeing a lot of businesses that can now work from anywhere. And so they're hiring from all sorts of different places in the nation, and we're all suffering from that.
Sure.
Because if the business community isn't seeing sales, I'm not seeing sales tax, right?
Totally.
So it matters to us as that moves forward. But I think we're there. Internally, I am so pleased and proud to see this culture change we've been able to do. It's not the kind of thing that most people in community see.
Sure.
But the cross-collaborative work, the focus on how do we call it One Boulder, but how is there no wrong door? How do we support and show that if it's not me as a department that's helping you do something, I know what department's working on it. How do I do that? We've got a ways to go still, but I see that in leadership. I see that sort of permeating down, and I think we're going to continue in that vein. But that in of itself is one of the things I'm most proud of, because it is hard to change organizational culture.
Wonderful. Well, let's do this. Let's focus first in terms of a specific issue of interest, and that's the economy overall. And you touched on it a little bit. So I will say that we, as the Boulder Chamber, love our partnership with the city and economic vitality efforts, recruiting, retention for businesses. We're seeing some positive results in terms of, I'd say, the larger technology companies. But we're still, as you alluded to, seeing the high vacancy rates, their sales tax numbers down. So what are the strategies that the city's pursuing to support and lift our economy?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think we have been trying some. We're going to continue to try some. We started an affordable commercial grant pilot, see if that can help. We have been certainly great partners like you who have been thinking about what are the ways in which we can accelerate those efforts. We can now say economic development in the city, and working hard to think about what are those tools in the toolbox that we did not have before. We already had some flexible rebates, some amount of incentives, but we had not really leaned into that direction. We're currently doing that now. Council's been super supportive of those efforts, and as we have put more of that in the budget, we are able to help more businesses move forward, so we'll continue to take a look at that. We're, and I know you've been involved and others downtown have been helping us think through a potential DDA or Downtown Development Authority. We think that can be a really interesting and productive way to support our businesses. It's a tool that we've never had to use before, but it will invest monies into the downtown in ways that we just don't right now with our current GID, KGID setup. And so Metro Districts is another area that just passed through council, taking a look at what potential that can do for our city, and really leaning into how is the city poised to improve and recruit and attract businesces, and that leads to also how do we do better in our permitting and our
it's on the list here.
I figured it was coming.
Well, before we get to that, let me just talk in terms of the reduced budget and the challenge of limited resources. I will just be clear, and you and I are always honest with each other. There have been criticisms, some about allocation of resources, infrastructure, the needs that we have in terms of rec centers, et cetera, and then just certain staff positions. People call out, they say, how many communications people do you need, that kind of thing. Let me just ask you, how do you respond to those kinds of criticisms?
In different ways, right, depending on what's coming our way. Going back to your first question, what I discovered when I was looking at budget was that it was hard for me to know where the budget information was, even when I was looking at the position. And so when I first came in, that first year, we actually put the budget online through OpenGov. And since then, we have made improvements, right? It's never great the first time out, but we iterate on what that looks like. And in many communities, the budget doesn't get much of a glance. We are not that community anymore. And so we have seen a lot more people take advantage of that portal to take a look at the budget. So with that comes good and bad, right? And the reality that I have talked to the team about is that I will lie to community about where our finances are. And I don't need to cast blame and why we got there, because there were a million different reasons why folks made certain determinations. But what I will say is that we are in a facilities hole. We have been very clear with council and community that particularly O&M, operations and maintenance budget, had not been included in a lot of our facilities that are very, very old. And so we are looking at buildings that are collapsing, that are failing, rec centers, certainly we've been having this conversation, our public safety building, the municipal building, our facilities and fleet building, all over. The bill has come and we are not in a financial position to take that check and pay it easily. And we're struggling with it, but I'm being very honest about it, right? We knew this was going to be a hard year for that. Conversely, I appreciate, right, perspectives about where we put our resources. I will continue to look at staff. We did 5% reductions last year and asked staff for that, and actually we ended up, I believe, eliminating about 15 positions. It could be more as that moves forward. This year we're in the same position of asking staff to reduce by 4%. But I want people to be clear about what they're really asking for, right? Part of the issue, I think, when people speak to, and you mentioned it, a lot of people talk about our comm staff. We have a very different model, so it's hard when you're looking across jurisdictions to say, what is apples and apples? We have 32 staff, and we have a centralized model. We have about 18 of them that are embedded in departments. So you may think that the PIOs, the 2 PIOs for police, are actually police personnel. They are not. They are comms personnel. Just like a recently opened position is actually utilities personnel that now, because it's utilities, gets funded by that fund and not the general fund, right? So there's a lot of different decisions, and that centralization and embedding of departments actually allows for better consistency, better messaging. So it's not just one department's message against another department's message. We're really unified in what the community looks at us as. We are city. We're not our individual departments. And so there's that. We also have a series of folks that do all the filming and audio visual for every single board and commission and council meeting. That's a very specific group of people. We have another group of people that do engagement strategies. They are the professionals that, were we not to have them, how much would we hear from you and community that we did not do sufficient engagement? And so when I hear criticisms, I appreciate it. I mean, I take it, right? It's okay to criticize. What I hope that people is they ask the question with curiosity and don't pit departments against each other. We certainly see that for transportation. We see that for when we were negotiating the police officer contract last year. There are reasons why this personnel exists. And as services have grown and the demand for services has grown, you need people. At the end of the day, you need people to provide you services.
Gotcha. All right, well, that's very helpful, Debbie. And I think your comment about not just making assumptions, but asking questions and trying to understand, and then obviously appreciate your transparency about that.
Absolutely.
Okay, another area is important for our community. Homelessness continues to be a great concern, not only for the individuals who are unhoused, but also for the impacts on our businesses and for just the quality of life for our community generally. So I think most would acknowledge that there's been some progress in that space, but wondering what other strategies are you pursuing, and where do you think we're headed in that area?
No, thanks for that question. I appreciate acknowledgement that there's been progress, but I also always say honestly, we've got more to go. And sometimes we feel it more than others, especially if you're in the downtown area. I mentioned that when I first came here, I was a little struck by just seeing so many tents in place, and you don't see that as much anymore. We still certainly have people that are in the downtown area by the creek, by our municipal building, on Pearl Street. It's a hard issue, and I know that the PD has tried to talk about it a little bit. The chief has been pretty open about limitations of tools that they have to do that. But I hope too that as staff we're looking at not just the constraints, but what actually is under our purview, and what can we do, and some strategies to do things differently. We recently had a consultant help us, and we issued the clutch report that's out there, and that talks about a variety of strategies. Some of it is, can we shift folks to our day services center? Our day services center is where the All Roads is. It's housed there, because that is a one-stop shop for diversion or coordinated entry or other services that you may need. That's the right place to do it if we're wanting to really help people from a whole holistic wraparound kind of way. And in order to do that, we have to think about our own actions and what are we attracting downtown that keeps people here versus what can we do if we're shifting that model. And so I think people soon will see that we are shifting our own models to have more services, so that they're not in the sort of the park area, the band shell area, civic area. I think that too, we are continuing to look at building more housing, permanently affordable housing. It's a big part of that as we move forward. Our mod unit, our Boulder mod unit. Have you been out there?
I have. It's impressive.
It's amazing, and it's set to do 20 units this year, and so super exciting about that. Eviction prevention is another one where we help so many people through that, and if we can keep people from falling into homelessness, isn't that a great benefit as we move forward? So I think we are continuing to think about what does that look like, and that includes to cleanup. We have had a big SAMPS team, our Safe and Managed Public Spaces team. Our utilities department leads that, but it is truly cross-departmental. And what I really love about our staff and our team is that they do so with such compassion. I don't know if anybody has been there when they are doing their work, but while it is, you cannot be here because what you do may impact our water quality. You are impeding the roadways and the trails and so forth. But they do so with such compassion as they're moving it and still doing it. We are looking for additional strategies. People, I think, know now that tents are not allowed, and so we stopped seeing tents, but now we're seeing more tarps, or we're seeing more sleeping bags, right? And so we're looking at additional strategies there. We're taking a harder look at obstruction of those multi-paths, multi-use paths, because that we can actually lean into. We're working hard with the sheriff's office to see, I don't ever want to criminalize homelessness. There are certain times when PD sees something that warrants a citation that needs something more serious. So we're working with our sheriff's office to see what can be done there. And continuing to look at strategies for supporting and hopefully bringing people in connection with where they first came from. We found in that study about 60% of our unsheltered are not from here. And so asking the question, where did you last feel safe, and can we get you there again, is a strategy we certainly endorse, and it's something that the shelter is doing more of, and so we're seeing increased diversion. I also hope that your listeners and your viewers don't forget that we're doing a heck of a lot with housing as well. In the past 5 years since I've been here, we have helped house almost 1,300 people, 12,800, 1,287.
City manager having the exact numbers.
No, I was like, I will be precise.
That's good, yeah.
But it's impressive for a city our size, and
Sure.
particularly when the resources that we have are really small compared to what the county has. So we're
Yeah.
also working more with the county to see how they can continue to support this effort.
Yeah.
So there's a lot being done, and I know that sometimes there are days where it doesn't feel that way, and we will continue to lean into that as we move forward. I will say too that one of the biggest concerns we have as a city is what can be done with mental health concerns and addiction. We have built units for addiction services, for mental health support. They're not enough in the state, they're not enough in our region. And many times when people are feeling unsafe, it is not because somebody is violating the law, but they are in a state that is not healthy for them, and it may not be healthy for community, but it is not unlawful. And so those are those gray lines that we have to figure out, and we are trying hard to lean into those.
Yeah, and I'm impressed the law enforcement side of the equation that our police chief recognizes that this is an issue when you have somebody in front of your store and they're acting out, obviously having some sort of mental condition, that there are limited tools, but they're working on all aspects. How do we reach that person? How do we help them to find services? And when they do, in fact, cause specific disruption or threat to community, that they can take action.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the fact that we've added resources downtown helps. We have now 6 mall officers, a sergeant dedicated to downtown. And while every once in a while we see those ebbs and flows in our police department staffing, those positions will remain, and I think that has been an addition to downtown that really helps.
Well, I know that's super important to business community, so thank you for that emphasis. You mentioned housing, a number of tools that the city's implementing to address affordable housing broadly. A specific interest now and focus for the business community is that middle income housing, in particular for sale product. Wondering where you see the progress there and what tools the city is looking to implement to increase the access to middle income housing.
That's a tough one. You're coming to me with hard questions, John.
That's the nature of chamber chats. I'm right at you.
And I really do repeat, I think it's hard because there are some things we don't control, right? Construction costs, inflation, materials, the land, not all of those are in our control. So the things that we have are timing, and entitlement, the time it takes to get through development review. But looking at those strategies, figuring out what that looks like. And then we also try and our Director of Housing and Human Services, Kurt Fernhopper, our Director of Planning and Development Services, Brett Mueller, they do a much better job at the details of this than I do. But people forget that in the past 10 years, almost 38% of new development has been permanently affordable. We have 850 permanently affordable housing units right now that the city has purchased and put out there, and we'll continue to look for those opportunities because we think it's really important. And while I can't drive down the price of inflation and construction and materials, we do know that we owe folks the benefit of making sure that we don't delay as much as possible. We don't add to delays of construction, and that is within our purview. So we're looking at that. We have put some metrics and some measures through some of that, and so we're continuing to try to move in that direction as that moves forward. We just recently passed ordinance that allows for minor use review, so that actually takes the time to get through development review from what used to be months to weeks. And we have seen that people are starting to use that as that moves forward. We're hoping that in particular for the business community, you're trying to change a location that had a different use. Hopefully that can go through minor use review, right? So we're looking at that and seeing how that will impact the market. But we know that it's a concern for folks.
house.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, just to be very clear, it continues to be a concern, and appreciated the openness that we have with Brad Mueller, the planning director, around concerns and specific issues we'd like to work on. I will say that, just continued interest in seeing reducing unnecessary regulatory hurdles and permitting processes, as well as expense of permit fees and that kind of thing, and other expenses of development. And I'm just wondering, in that specific area, any other initiatives or any other interest that you have in that space of driving down the cost of the city's permitting and review process?
No, I appreciate it. I think we got some assistance because we don't do this alone, right?
Yeah.
We certainly hear from you, we hear from others, and I will say that a lot of it is super constructive, even when it's very critical of the city, and I appreciate those conversations. We are continuing to look at changes in code. Council has signaled very much their openness to have us come forward, and so we are thinking about the things that we can change right now, what Title IX potentially would look like if we take some of those provisions. I try to remind people, though, that it took years and decades for community to create a code. Yes, a code that is just so tightly wound. It takes us a while to sort of unravel what that looks like, but we very much are looking to that. Most projects, now not all, right? We've got some projects that have been out there for a year or so, but a lot of projects now are averaging 4 to 6 months. Some of that depends on the time it has for staff to work on it. Right now, we're all in the midst of trying to get ready for a particular festival that may be coming our way. But I think we're all looking at that as well. We have partnered with an organization called Cities Work, and that's all about looking at our small business and barriers, and so we're hoping to get that report pretty soon. We've also partnered with the Knight Foundation, and we have a 2-year fellow to take a look at, are there ways in which AI can help us move things forward, and we have asked them to partner with our Director of Planning and Development Services, Brad Mueller, to see what that looks like. We're also in the midst of customer service sprints, which I know sounds super boring, and I will tell you is super sexy to me.
Ready to go forward in that sprint.
It's so good, it's so good. But as we think about moving to a new building, we're really thinking about how do we offer services differently. And I know that we're continuing to think about how do we get to yes, how do we sometimes say no, not this way, but maybe this other way, right? It's a mindset as we think about that. Very much are leaning into that. And I think the new building is going to change a little bit how we work, how we interact with community, and particularly those that are seeking help in our customer service hub. So it's exciting that all these things are happening at once. And I hope that we'll continue to see improvements. I have heard from community that they're seeing improvements from where I was 5 years ago, but we've got a ways to go.
They certainly acknowledge, and I would say the development community, the folks that we work with, will certainly acknowledge there has been progress, but excited about what you're talking about in terms of the review of Title IX and even the customer service model that you just described, sort of that working with the folks to achieve goals. If they can't get exactly the direction they want, what other direction might be helpful. So I appreciate that tone. Well, let me hit you on just another area of interest in the development community and the business community at large, and that is power and water resources. So, these disruptions in power and then access to enough power, things are coming to a head. And then also just concerns leveled about water availability. What do you see happening in those areas, and what confidence can you give the business community that we're working in a positive direction there?
I actually really do think we're working in a positive direction. Two separate issues, right? As we think about power, I think the thing that comes to mind for most people is the recent public safety power shutoffs, right? And I think because it hit us hard,
I'm pretty honest with you, I'm pretty honest with Excel. I think the first one lacked some good communication. I think they have learned from that, and the next iterations we have seen improvements, and I appreciate that from our partners. I think they worked hard with our staff. We have a team that works hand in hand with them as we're thinking about what does that look like and getting that information. We were really supportive of sectionalization. How do we minimize the amount of people that may be impacted? Because let's also acknowledge that having energized lines to come down in the middle of a storm could cause serious concern for our community. I get where they're coming from, and it's the execution and the communication that I think we can all do better at. So I think we're moving in a better direction. We'd all love to see that more accelerated. I think they are. We'll be talking to them as part of our Excel partnership with council in August, I believe. So stay tuned for that. But we do think they're accelerating undergrounding efforts, which I think is good. They're investing in different kind of materials and better sensors, warning systems, so they can get the power up and running or see where there's a problem. So I do see forward momentum. I am hopeful that we see less and less of this sort of heavy-handed need, that it becomes more scalpel-like, and I saw that in the last two, that it became better and energy came back on for most residents faster than before. So I see there is reason for optimism as we move forward. Water, I have such incredible confidence in our water team. I think you have seen recently we put some restrictions. We are constantly monitoring what that looks like. We had a drought plan come to council last year, so we're always monitoring where we are, where we could be. Next year you will see more of that as we think about water resources in general and what is the need. But our team is really clear. When we don't have water to lease or we're concerned about it, we do not. And so we're thinking about what does new development or new industries, and we think about, we've got really great technology. Quantum is amazing, but also great technology coming into play. They will have needs as energy needs, water needs as we move forward. So we take that into account as we're seeing the change in the industry landscape here. But I have every trust in our folks to have good conversations, to be monitoring, not just for this year, but really they have a longitudinal horizon. Got to get that word out. In their perspective, they really look further out, and if there are concerns, they will raise that bell. But so far, we have been thoughtful and measured, and certainly trying to be good stewards of the resources that we have.
I mean, I'd say very fortunate that we have the available water resources, and I know the business community's partner in making sure that we're utilizing it efficiently, but we just don't want it to become a barrier to, as you suggest, bringing in the kinds of businesses that we think will accelerate and lift our economy. And then I'll just say on the power front, really appreciate what you said. I mean, it was a lot of work by the city in partnership with Excel to just identify ways to segment and reduce the impact of this power outage. And we are partners with you. We want to work constructively with Excel, who's a business partner, to help accelerate this investment in the infrastructure that reduces the need for that, and then hopefully bringing more power resources to town. So,
and I want to thank you. I know you have been partners with our team. I know we're going to do something together soon. It's a council priority to think about power resilience, and we'll have some engagement strategies for community. Certainly some coming up this summer. We plan to do a council community forum in the fall, just really talking about what is our role as a city to continue to build resilience, but also how can our community partners help as well. So excited about that, and I appreciate your partnership.
Awesome. Well, we've talked about a number of concerns and issues that the business community would have with the city. let's talk about some of the positive things, because there are so many exciting things happening. You mentioned a few of the technology developments that we're seeing, the quantum investment in town, but I want to focus on that one star attraction, and that's
One little festival?
exactly. and it is very exciting for
Yeah.
the community on so many fronts. So just wondering, from your perspective, how's the planning going for bringing and welcoming that that festival to town?
I think it's going really well. I know that we often in the city do things because we're working right behind the scenes.
Mhm.
People don't see it,
Yeah.
but we have entire teams meeting weekly to talk about things from parking and curbs and public safety and venues and permitting. I mean, it's the whole gamut of what we need to do here. And what I'm really proud about the team is that they're focused certainly on the festival, and we love that the festival is happening here.
Yeah.
We have great partners, I believe, in our Sundance Institute friends.
Absolutely.
But I am also really mindful as the staff of what the impact will be to community, to our own residents who we hope get excited. We're coming down to see movies, eating at our restaurants. But we know that an event like this has impact. And how do we know? Because we do this all the time, right?
Totally.
We're about to have the Boulder Boulder Creek Fest. There's a million, I think last year there were 116 special events and 106 film event permits.
Wow.
And why those numbers stick in my head, I do not know.
Again, the fact that our city manager knows this precise numbers is impressive.
But so we're not immune. It's not like we don't know about big events. The fact that it's prolonged for many days is the difference.
Yeah.
But we're used to that, and we want to make sure that our residents are embracing of the festival, are not impacted. We hear some concerns about traffic and how will that work for me, and so we're thinking about it in all aspects and really keeping our residents in mind, as well as a lot of new visitors that are coming our way and that will get to see the beauty of our city. So I'm pretty excited about where we are from all aspects. I think we're doing good. We will see as time gets closer how we are. And we will learn. We will not get it perfect. I want to always say that. It will not be perfect the first year out. We will learn from it, and we will continue to strive to make it better and better.
I love it. Well, we're looking out for 10 years of this relationship that we're building with Sundance, the Sundance team, and wondering if you were to reflect back in 10 years and say, boy, this has been a success for a community. What does that look like to you, and economically, culturally, for Boulder?
You know, it's no secret, right, that Boulder is a tremendous place for creatives. The creative economy is so critical for us. I think recently we were named the 10th most arts vibrant medium-sized city, so I'll take all of that mouthful and own it, right? And we'll be really proud of that. I think in the last time we did a study in 2022, arts activity contributed $115 million to the city of Boulder in some way, shape, or form. That's what it generated. And so we are a powerhouse of creative arts and artists who really, I think, do tremendous amount of work for our community. And I think Sundance Film Festival will just add to that. So if I had to look, 10 years further and look back, I would say that has just put us on the map even more than we already are. We I think are known already for our creative excellence, and I'm excited to see what this will look like as we move forward. But I also very much believe that the festival will have a way to support other businesses as well. I think our retail, our restaurant community, there's so many sort of festival adjacent activities. And I want to thank you and your team who've been super helpful with the business hub and trying to match services that the festival folks may need to our local community and businesses. And I just think that there is such possibility here for so many people in our community to really benefit. I think students are going to benefit, and this will also be a really tremendous
way for students that are interested in film to say, wait, I want to go to CU Boulder, because not only do they have on their own right a great film school, but man, I have the chance to be right near Sundance, right?
Sure.
So I think there are just so many ways in which this will benefit us, and I believe that 10 years in, we will not be looking back, but we will be looking forward.
Sure. And just to hit on the economy, what,
Yep.
what do you see the economic benefits for our businesses for overall?
You know, it's hard to quantify as that moves forward because we don't know yet what it's going to be. In fact, I have told staff who are asking me, what can we plan for in the budget? We're not actually building it in the budget so that we see. But it is no doubt that in Park City, I think that there was a tremendous economic boom for the city. And of all the numbers I've quoted, I am blanking now on what that looked like for the city as a whole.
About 125
some million.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think that a lot of it will be, I think we will see that in sales tax. And we will be able to think about what does that look like. I caution and that's why, you know, the budget person in me who's constantly doing budget year round, it feels. I also think there will be expenses, right? We will have overtime, we will have police, we will have folks that are doing inspections and looking at traffic, and so that's not a bad thing. That happens in any festival, frankly, it happens in any event. So we will see what that looks like, but I think that the fact that there will be so much interest, so many people going in and out of retail on Pearl Street or going in and out of restaurants, and the fact that the festival is happening in so many different venues, I think we will see, all of us, a benefit, economic benefit, the festival. What that looks like, we'll see next year, but I'm excited, and I am sure that it will be a benefit to us all.
Yeah, I think it's important not to oversell it. Or just experience it the first time and see how we absorb it as a community and the benefits that we are able to accumulate from it. But no, really important. The key is the planning and making sure that we're welcoming them and to be successful, and then we can build from there over 10 years. Okay, closing our conversation. 5 years.
So soon?
Well, exactly. How long has it been? It's probably been a year. Just thinking in terms of for yourself, accomplishments you're most proud of in that 5 years, and then, you know, what focus do you want to have for your work for the next 5 years?
That's a tough question, because now you're asking me to think about what I'm most proud of, right? And, you know, there are a lot of things that the city has done in the past 5 years that are thrilling, a lot of them that are public, right? I think the flood project mitigation in CU South, I think of rental assistance program, I think what we've supported restaurant community with outdoor dining, I think the shift that we're doing with economic development, let alone the million projects that people don't see and perhaps don't appreciate that are infrastructure projects, and what happens in, you know, underneath the ground with utilities, and the street light acquisition from Excel, how we're advancing climate initiatives, and there's so many different areas that I could say are more public. I will say that to me, the things that I'm most proud of are likely the non-sexy internal things. The helping to shift organizational culture, seeing a leadership team that has broken down silos and is continuing to figure out how to work cross-departmentally. That reflects in the work, right? The great work we're doing on wildfire resilience gives me great pride, not just because of what they do for community, but I look at a team of 4 departments that are extraordinarily coming together to figure out how they work, and that was not necessarily what I came into, and I will tell you, having worked in other cities, you don't always see that, and so that change and that shift of we are here to help in any way we can is something I'm tremendously proud of.
Beautiful.
I think the fact that I pride myself on being accessible, and the fact that anybody from our parks that may be mitigating something by the creek, or somebody in our traffic unit can stop and say, hey, Nuria, I want to say hello, can I talk to you about something? And I think it's those moments that make me the most proud, because it means
I've connected somehow
Sure.
to community. I will say the same thing when I speak to community leaders or somebody off the street and may stop me on Pearl Street saying, hey, you're our manager. I saw you say this and I don't like it or I do like it,
sure.
but people feel comfortable to stop and have a conversation.
Yeah.
That connection to me is invaluable and it will be something I always lean into.
Love it. And anything that you're thinking about focusing next 5 years?
Yeah, it wouldn't be me if I didn't say I continue to think about budget stabilization.
Yeah.
We're in that conversation now. We've been having those very hard conversations with community. We will continue to have those conversations with community because we have been, I think, living above our means.
Yeah.
And it's time to really think about prioritization and making hard choices. And so that stabilization will continue to be there. I do think often the thing we hear a lot about is difficulty of doing business in the city. And when we talk to people and we go through what are the things that concerned you, some of them are ours, and where they're ours, I want to figure out how to streamline processes and practices and think about what does that look like in very different ways. And when they're not, can we do something about it? Or can we connect somebody who can do something about it? But I think that's going to constantly be something that I'm looking forward to. We are moving into a new campus, and I think having 9 buildings consolidated into one is going to be tremendous. I think it will yield efficiencies, not just in staff time, but also just in work efficiencies by having folks be together in one place is going to be really good, and it's going to be a hard transition for us. And so we're having those conversations because that kind of change is not easy, but I'm looking forward to that. And then how can I not be looking at the festival that builds on amazing traditions? The Boulder International Film Festival is amazing. Boulder Roots music, oh my goodness, was that so good. So it builds on tremendous traditions already, and seeing the Sundance come here, I'm thrilled to see it as
I
it
agree.
comes in.
I think we don't even fully appreciate the benefit to our community, to our economy, from that international focus for ourselves culturally, as you were alluding to, importantly, as well as economically. So right there in excitement. And I'll just conclude myself just to say, you mentioned transparency, and I just so appreciate that about you and the tone you set for the administration. We can have our differences, but the ability to communicate and just share our solutions, our concerns is so important to the business community, and then ultimately to our collaboration in addressing economic, business, and community issues. So appreciate your service, Nuria.
Appreciate your partnership.
And our friendship. And I'll just say thank you for being on Chamber Chat.
Love it.
There you go. She will hopefully get back. She said at the beginning.
Don't know that I'll come back.
Exactly. She said, I don't like the focus on me, so it was a struggle to get her here. But I'm so thankful for this conversation. And we'll see you next time on Chamber Chat.